Welcome back to Poland Daily History with me, Nicholas Richardson. In the studio today, I have Professor Krzysztof Jabłonka, and we're talking about the early years of Poland's independence following the First World War and the successful defeat of the Bolsheviks in the 1920 Polish-Bolshevik War. Professor, in the previous episode, we spoke about the role of Marshal Piłsudski in the early years of the struggle for independence and the establishing the nation. Then Piłsudski sort of slightly retreated from public life. Can you say a few words about why he retreated and what this ultimately led to?
Wielkim przeżyciem dla Piłsudskiego był
The assassination of the first president of independent Poland was a huge experience for Piłsudski. It was a shock for all Poles because a completely innocent man with exceptional moral virtues was deprived of his life on the sixth day of his office by a nationalist in today's terms, terrorist or blind man who believed that Poland had been hurt. Let us remind you that the Poles divided themselves very much into a national party called the Nationalist Movement, so the National Democratic Movement and others.
zwaną endecją, czyli ruch narodowo-demokratyczny i na pozostałe.
It only took a few more representatives in the Sejm, and an opponent of this national democracy was elected. It was the then Minister of Foreign Affairs, but also an outstanding Pole, an outstanding scientist, engineer Gabriel Narutowicz. When he was shot by Eligiusz Niewiadomski, Piłsudski was shocked. Democratic forms ended, banditry began. At this point he claimed that he had withdrawn from life and received from the army a manor to live in.
I w tym momencie twierdził, że wycofał się z życia, otrzymał od wojska dworek do zamieszkania. Zresztą w dość ciekawy sposób żona kupiła...
His wife bought the land, and the army built a beautiful and very simple, just a few-room manor house on it and took refuge there, giving power to the party that won. Unfortunately, it was a party stained by the president's murder.
No, była to niestety partia splamiona mordem prezydenta. Po 3 latach widać było już, że...
After 3 years, it was already clear that the parliamentary system in Poland was not fulfilling because it was modeled on the 19th century Third French Republic. It was constructed against Napoleon III, in turn in connection with which the constitution was adopted against Piłsudski. The role of the president was really reduced to the lowest possible significance. At that time, Piłsudski refused to run for president, and he was forced into exile. He was a man who contested what was happening in Poland. So everyone, seeing this disorder that began to form, primarily in political life, fled to Sulejówek and spoke to Marshal Piłsudski there. Ultimately, even the parliamentarians themselves, including Wincenty Witos, encouraged Piłsudski, saying that something must be done because the governments are failing after half a year of rule. The country was without a government, and we were always threatened by Bolshevik aggression. The Bolsheviks did not let go of their defeat. From year to year, they postponed the date of their aggression towards Poland. It is then that Piłsudski makes a coup decision, scaring by use of the army, and the politicians make a decision that partly changes the system.
I politycy podejmują decyzje, które zmienia częściowo ustrój. Niestety nie przewidział jednej rzeczy, że miał wrogów w wojsku.
Unfortunately, he did not foresee one thing. He had enemies in the army, a group of high officers, generals from Austrian times. They simply hated him from the First World War. Mainly because he was so popular. Every popular person has someone in the background who envies them. They then attempted to assassinate him, outlawing him.
Na niego zamachu, wyjmując go spod prawa.
He was made a great emigrant. The army supported Piłsudski greatly, and more importantly, the entire eastern borderlands did, and there was a threat of civil war. And at that moment, Piłsudski launched a counterattack and beat the group of soldiers that had sentenced him to death. And thus, he restored order.
Pewien porządek przywrócił.
Following on from what you've just been saying, could you say a few words about the May coup of 1926, what the fighting actually looked like, how the two sides finally reached reached some agreement, some form of peace.
Warto nadmienić, że Piłsudski o 7 rano
It is worth mentioning that at 7 a.m., when he was saying goodbye to his wife on May 12, 1926, Piłsudski said the words, "I'll be right back." It meant that I would be a very short walk across the Vistula River. Today, historians say that if he wanted to carry out an attack, it would be bloodless. He didn't want a coup, but something different, a kind of halfway scenario in which the other party agrees to his actions. Unfortunately, they did not agree.
niestety nie zgodziła się. Doszło do dramatycznej rozmowy ze swoim dawnym przyjacielem. Pod jednym płaszczem kiedyś w Londynie sypiali.
There was a dramatic conversation with his former friend. They would sleep together under one coat in London, not having a comforter in difficult conditions. They were friends from the time of the Tsarist anti-conspiracy. The successor of Gabriel Narutowicz was Stanisław Wojciechowski, indicated by Piłsudski. At this point, Wojciechowski was convinced that Piłsudski should be removed, which threatened the degradation of many people in the army.
Postanowił i wierzył jednak, że się dogada ze starym przyjacielem. I spotkał się z nim.
However, Piłsudski believed that he would get along with his old friend. He met with him on the bridge of Prince Józef Poniatowski, one of the most important in Warsaw. Then he found out that he wasn't in fact on his side. Wojciechowski was more in collusion with his opponents in the army than with him. He was not allowed to be convinced about the need for change. This was even agreed with some members of the opposing party in the Sejm. Then Piłsudski was to say, and the president had the nickname Candle because he was so tall, "You candle, I lit you and I will blow you out." Then the attack began on another bridge a little further north, Kierbeć Bridge, built by a Polish engineer, as many bridges in St. Petersburg and all across Russia, built near the royal castle. While entering the castle, legionary units, very loyal to Piłsudski, were attacked, not even by the Polish army, but by partly the militia of National Democracy. These men fired the first shots at Polish soldiers, and they answered back. The first victims fell. The first victim, moreover very symbolic, was an officer who was exiting a tank, activated a grenade. When he swung it, he fell into the tank, and that grenade killed him. In this way, the government group's activity is expressed, that is annihilated itself by trying to stand up against time, against what Józef Piłsudski carried.
Przeciwko właściwie temu, co niósł ze sobą swoim imieniem Józef Piłsudski.
Well, Professor, that's been fascinating. Thank you very much for coming to the studio. Thank you for watching Poland Daily History. Join us again when we look at more exciting episodes from the history of Poland.